Welcome to Business Dive Extra, the show that focuses on the business leaders and entrepreneurs. The COVID-19 pandemic has laid bare the value of Jamaica's food processing business. In this week's episode, we're talking to a man who leads the way in ensuring food security for the country and beyond. He's a giant in corporate leadership and an astute nation builder. He serves on the boards of multiple companies and has previously been a director at the Rural Agricultural Development Authority, RADA, the Jamaica Manufacturers Association, and the Postal Corporation of Jamaica. He has dedicated much of his time to serving his alma mater, Monroe College, as first Vice President, VP of the Old Boys Association. He holds a Bachelor of Science degree in Business Management from the University of Miami, UM, as well as a Master in Business Administration from Regent University in Virginia Beach, USA. He has also successfully completed the Executive Management Program at the Harvard Business School. He's been the leader of this best-dressed Jamaican success story since 2009. That's right, our guest today is Mr. Christopher Levy, CEO of the Jamaica Broilers Group. We have a slightly different format today, folks, as a result of the pandemic. Chris is joining us down the line. Chris, welcome today to Business Dive Extra. It's great to have you.
Hey, Mark, how are you doing?
How are you doing? I'm loving your leadership today, joining us by Zoom and everything.
Yes, quite a different format we're living in these days.
I know. Just quickly, how is the pandemic affecting you, this week or just even today, if you can just give us a quick example?
Well, I tell you, Mark, the challenge with it is really around just the speed of decision making. The times are so fluid that we just have to be really quick and smart with our decisions. We don't have the luxury of waiting, because what happens is that the events just keep changing so rapidly. So we have to be really on our toes, which isn't a bad thing.
Right. And Chris, I feel like you've been CEO actually for way longer than 11 years, or a leader of the firm. I even remember when Jamaica Broilers used to be on Hope Road, or the head office. Out at McCook's Pen. I mean, walk us through it. I mean, when did you take over? As a boss, as they say a lot, or as a big man of JBG.
Well, 11 years ago, as it said, but I've really been in the company for over 30 years, and it's great. I grew up in it, started working at 13 years old.
Yes.
And the challenge was I'd be out at night catching chickens, and you couldn't lift up all the chickens to put in the box at that time, so they put a separate box for me. This would be at 2 o'clock in the morning, and a 13-year-old out on the road at 2 o'clock in the morning is pretty unique. But that's how you learn the business on the road up.
And did you start, Chris, doing like summer jobs, or was it Easter jobs, or working in Christmas, with broilers?
Yeah, every summer. Started at 13 and worked every summer for a minimum of 4 to 5 weeks, and in various jobs. I think in those days it was a lot more around having me being tolerated than actually contributing.
Yes.
But you learn the business. You learn the ins and outs of it. You know what works, what doesn't work. You get to know the challenges of the people that are actually on the ground doing that work. And you can really relate to the environment they're in, or the challenges that they face from day to day.
Right. And Chris, did you jump into any job, besides Jamaica Broilers, like when you came back to Jamaica, or were you always firmly cemented, in the family business?
Yeah. I'll be honest with you, I really haven't really worked anywhere else. And,
wow. Okay.
I'm not sure that's a good or a bad thing, but I've just really been satisfied here. It's great. I enjoy the people. The team that I'm blessed to lead is amazing. They're a lot smarter than I, which is probably a good thing. And the opportunities that it has given me and my wife and the kids have just been amazing. It's been great for us.
Yeah. And what's Jamaica Broilers has so many parts. When you were in, say, your 20s, your 30s, what areas did you come up in? I mean, did you come up in the poultry side? I mean, were you in the beef side or the aquaculture side, or just walk us through the history. Like, where did you really get your roots in the company?
All of it. I've been in the beef side, the chicken side, the aquaculture side, which is a humbling side of things. But my first job, I'll tell you a quick story. My first job was at the hatchery official job, and I was kind of between schools. So I must have been about 17 or 18, and I was going to work for a year. And my first job was at the hatchery, white man, and the hatchery manager was only Mr. Noel, really nice guy. And he gave me a power washer and told me to go and wash the outside of the building. The entire factory was pebble dash. I think it still is pebble dash. And for 2 weeks, I washed that building outside, and I was soaking wet every day. And I'd come in and have lunch and be back out there. But you know, what it does, it kind of builds character in terms of just responsibility of work. And that job is too small or too insignificant for you to do. And if you have that attitude, then you're really not in the right place, you know. And as I grew, there were some jobs that were a lot more challenging. And you go through the maturing that, that you know, like I say, you know, the shine comes off of the ball. And you kind of get into realizing that it's a lot more about how you get things done than what you're able to get done. People start to recognize that you can get it done, but how you get it done now starts to play a bigger role. And you know, you go through that learning curve as a young man. You have every idea in the world, and you know how everything should be, and you know everybody is an idiot. And then you get to realize that it's actually you that's going up the learning curve and nobody else. And it's an amazing experience to kind of see things and change as your position in life and company changes. Because one of the big things today is the awesome responsibility for people that I have and I feel. Decisions that I make and that my team makes impacts thousands of people. And so you want to take that into consideration. When you're coming up, that's the focusing point.
Right.
You know, it's very self-centered. And so, you know, with time, it's everything changes a little bit.
And Chris, you know, what do people call you in the business? I mean, you know, your dad is Mr. Levy as well. You're Mr. Levy. You know, over the years, do people call you Chris, Christopher? You know, are you now known as Mr. Levy around the workplace, or, you know, what's your popular name?
A lot depends on the tone of the meeting and what we're discussing.
Yeah.
But yeah, Mr. Levy, Chris, you know, there's definitely a more time to be laid back, and then there's times where it's a little bit more formal and a little bit more serious. And I think folks realize that I'm not hung up on what I would call positions and titles and that sort of thing. Everybody deserves the same respect as an individual and person. And yes, positions come with different levels of respect. And, and people are sensitive to that. And you know, a couple of times you can say that's not how you're going to speak to me. And then other times it's great. You know, the conversation is like that.
Right. So, and you know, we notice in the background of your office there, you got a lot of pictures of family and so forth. Is that a culture at, you know, Jamaica Broilers? Is it very much rooted? I mean, we know, you know, the religion, you know, reading the management discussion analysis reports, you know, giving thanks. But, you know, is it also very highly, you know, family-based culture?
Yeah, culturally, you know, we're really grounded in the Judeo-Christian faith. That determines a lot of our decision-making protocols. Family is important, and we put that a lot of times. We put that ahead of the business. Different people face very different circumstances from time to time. If the company is not sensitive to that individual's situation, then we're missing something. Is it that we can do everything we'd like to do? Sometimes not. And do we catch everything? No, sometimes people slip through, there's no doubt about that. But we really are interested in an individual's home life and their life outside of work. And we are very, what I would call vested in that. So we provide everything from counseling and all of those sort of what I almost call standard business stuff. But Mark, what we try and do is get a little bit behind that and see what's going on in their homes, how are things. Because, if somebody is challenged at home, whether it's with a spouse or with a child or a sibling or something like that, it impacts their role here. And as it's not from a self-serving point of view, it's more from a point of view that, we're really interested in that whole person. And sometimes the decisions are very, what I would call unique. For example, we had a situation, and it's a tragic situation where this one of our employees, his daughter was having a baby, and he was over in another state, and she went into distress having a baby and was dying, and she ended up dying. But on the way, he was jumping in his car to drive 12 hours to get there. And we said, no. So we chartered a plane and sent him and his wife over there. And they were able to, I guess, kind of tell her goodbye. So it's those sort of things. There's no policy around it. It's just, it comes from the heart. And the moment it stops coming from the heart of the people that are responsible, then you lose that sensitivity and that caring.
No, amazing. And how during the pandemic or COVID, I mean, any examples you can give us, Chris, that really you find, you and the company, you've had to do some extraordinary things or measures, or, many companies haven't really spoken about it. The government has come up with a few measures, but anything that, Jamaica Broilers has done over the past couple of months?
Yeah, when this thing first happened, Mark, and it broke in the early part of the year, we were very kind of aware of the potential impacts of what could happen nationally, and then we had to also consider what would happen in Haiti and what would happen in the U.S.
Right.
So we spent a fair amount of time almost designing protocols by each country, and then charging a team responsible in that country for several things. First of all, being close to the staff and monitoring protocols that we had come up with in line with the various government protocols, and how do we monitor our people in that space. So, for example, we kind of have our own contact tracing. It might not be as robust as the government's, but it certainly then says, here's an issue, how do we unpack that as it relates to this person in this facility? We also then start to look, and if this happened, if we had a breakout or if the country continued to shut down for an extended period of time, what does that mean on the business side? And we really had to get ahead of the decision making. The challenge that you face on the COVID side is it's so fluid. It's the virus itself is one issue. But there is a real sense of fear that comes with it. And we've had to really address that in the staff, that we don't have to live in that space. We have got to, and we've communicated to our staff and folks and stakeholders that, listen, these are the times, but there is hope. So we started to sell hope instead of promote fear. Hope with responsibility so that you know what your situation is. Keep your circle small, obviously observe protocols, and understand the responsibility that you have for the broader community.
Gotcha. That's great.
That's great. Hope, because we believe decisions made out of fear.
And we take our first break on Business Live Extra. We're talking to Mr. Christopher Levy, CEO and President of the Jamaica Broilers Group. We'll hear all about the company when we return. Welcome back to Business Live Extra. We're talking to Christopher Levy, CEO and President of the Jamaica Broilers Group, a leading Jamaican food production company. The company was founded in 1958 when chicken was still a luxury item in Jamaica. It quickly grew as a chicken production facility. By 1962, the company had added Jamaica Eggs as a subsidiary. In 1972, it moved to a new location for its new food mill venture. The mill produced a wide range of animal feeds, which were marketed under the brand name Master Mix. Today, the company has 10 brands under its belt, including Best Dressed Chicken and Reggae Jammin', and major operations in Jamaica, Haiti, and the USA. Let's hear more now from CEO and President Christopher Levy. Chris, are you still?
Yeah, I'm here.
Are you still doing, like the brands like Master Mix and some of these brands, from decades ago?
We're still doing Jamaica eggs,
Okay.
which produces, we sell baby pullets to egg farmers, and we do hyper feeds now, not Master Mix anymore.
Right.
So those brands have kind of evolved a bit.
Okay, great. I mean, what's all the rage and what's all the excitement with Jamaica Broilers now? I mean, is it of course we know about the U.S. operations. Would that be the thing high and top on the agenda these days?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things that are really energizing us now, Mark. I'll be honest with you. I think when we look at Jamaica in itself, we are very encouraged about our business out here. We see tremendous opportunities in Jamaica. We're making quite a bit of investment in our operations here in Jamaica, and the team is really fired up. I'm not kidding you. It's exciting to see. We also do feel excited about Jamaica because of what I would call the overall development of the country and the agricultural sector. It's a backbone of this country. As small as we are, it's a very important sector in this country. And the support that we've seen from the government, especially through this crisis, is very encouraging for us. And we feel that the opportunities in Jamaica are very, very exciting, and we look forward to that.
Yeah.
Without a doubt, the U.S. is a whole different machine. You're talking about a country 100 times bigger than Jamaica, just in population alone, or more than 100 times. You're talking about one of the most efficient industries in the U.S. And the scope and size of it just is amazing. So we look at it from a perspective that we've taken very deliberate steps to get to where we are today, over about a 4-year period, and the opportunities are exciting. Very exciting.
And Chris, do one of the amazing things with Jamaica Broilers is, do you still view it as, growing up, you would always see Jamaica Broilers on the stock exchange report as a conglomerate, right. Sometimes manufacturing conglomerate, but do you view the company as still a chicken only or a poultry company, or do you view it as something bigger now?
Well, I think what we've been forced to reckon with in the company, Mark, is that we are a poultry company. There's no doubt about it. We enjoy the poultry sector. The hypo side of it is agricultural trade, and that really is a broad description of hypo, because it impacts the fertile business, it impacts the pig business, it impacts the layer business, it impacts the agriculture in terms of row crops, horticulture, and the role that we play there is very, very broad. And what we've had to do is really define hypo's role different than Best Dressed Chicken's role. And that's what we've been working on for the last, I would tell you, about a year and a half. And
okay.
I think we're seeing the benefit of that now. Hypo is really coming into our own.
And Chris, is that the brand differentiation, or is that staffing? Is that the whole shebang, or what exactly is that?
I think all of the above, including culture.
Okay.
Hypo is really around a trading organization. It buys and it sells. It gives advice. It gives services. That's not what Best Dressed Chicken does. Mm-hmm. So the culture and the conversations and the benchmarks and what I call the goals of a hypo are very different than that of a poultry production company, like the rest of the group.
Right. And Chris, are you doing commodities at all now? Like, pig stale, mutton, any of those type of goods that you're seeing kind of really all over the market now? Tons of new companies into commodities in Jamaica, or are you staying away? Are you staying away from that kind of marketplace?
No, we're not touching that.
Okay.
We're poultry in its many forms. We do some further processing and some pre-cooked and partially cooked products and formed products and that sort of thing. But poultry.
So you're very much sticking to core, like your core business.
Yes, absolutely. And it requires great discipline, I'll be honest with you, because it's not that those other things aren't good business and that you can't make money. It's that when you decide to be in poultry, you've got to be really single focused.
Okay. And Chris, tell us about though, one of the amazing things, and I mean probably kudos to the management, yourself, the board, is Jamaica Broilers. It seems like every couple of years, 3 to 5 years, it's I don't want to use the word hedge fund, but it almost seems like every 3 to 5 years you push the envelope. I mean, you've had your wins, you've had the losses, but it's not a boring company, one would say. I mean, you're always taking some degree of risk over the past maybe sample size of 20 years. You had the energy side, you've had your wins, your losses, but you've had this US side, the Haiti side, and you've always been pushing and pushing and pushing, which is refreshing from a stock market standpoint. There's a few other big boys out there that have been pushing the envelope too, but it's a different Jamaica Broilers, one would say, over the past maybe 5 to 15 years.
Yeah, I think what we realized a few years ago, Mark, is that Jamaica Broilers, in one sense, has outgrown Jamaica. The investments and the movement of poultry and sales of poultry won't move the needle of Jamaica Broilers. So we have to start looking elsewhere and we have to start pushing that envelope. And I'll be honest with you, 4 or 5 years ago, basically we started along the line of these fertile eggs and baby chicks, just building that integration in the US, because we realized that the opportunities there are all of a sudden beyond the scope of our what I would even call thinking. And it's forced us to look at Jamaica Broilers from a perspective of a multinational. I mean, the US business, Mark, and I don't like to make projections like this, but the opportunities there for growth far outweigh the growth capacity of Jamaica. Just in the sheer size of the market, it's very simple math. And the thing about it is that when you start to look at that and unpack that over the next 3 to 4 years, you then have to ask questions like, well, what would the company look like? What should it look like? And those sort of really kind of far-reaching questions so you can position correctly.
And so, Chris, what you're saying is really the US, was the US a diversification play in hindsight, or was it a growth play, or was it both, or what led the whole US, getting into that market?
What happened is that after Gilbert hit Jamaica, it became a risk management play, because we've been in business in the US for 25 years.
Okay.
So it was a risk management. Okay. About 5, 6 years ago, it became a growth play. But business in the US and business in Jamaica is not the same. We'll go there and we'll shop, or we'll go there and our kids or whatever, and this and that, and we'll enjoy our food and this and that there. But the business world and the business culture is totally different than Jamaica. So we have to learn that. Gotcha. Because all of a sudden, you're a very small fish in a very big pond. Yes. And guys up there have very big checkbooks. So you want to be very smart and deliberate in your steps. And the thing about it is that it takes real time to establish yourself and position yourself before you kind of expose your hands, so to speak.
Great, Chris. We're going to get back to that. And we take another break on Business Live Extra. We're talking to Mr. Christopher Levy, the best dressed man in business. More when we return.